Good day everyone, I am Jetson Kayawan and my partner is Ella. Today, we will be discussing about the different models of action research. Good morning everyone, today we're going to talk about action research models and paradigms. Action research is an important approach used by teachers and researchers to improve teaching practices and solving problems. In the classroom or community, it focuses on identifying a problem, planning a solution, implementing action, and reflecting on the result to make improvements. This is the 10 model of action research used. First, action research interacting spiral by Ernest. Second, Dewey action research spiral by Mertler. Third, Colvin's action research cycle by Mertler. Fourth, Benchman action research cycle by Mertler. And the fifth is action research Real's action research model by Mertler. And the sixth is Piaget Irvine's action research model by Mertler, and the 7th is action research by Ferencz. And 8 is action research spiral by Kemes and McTaggart, and the 9th is Sussman action research model in 1983, and the 10th is action research process by Henderson. The first model is action research interacting spiral by Ernest Ringer. This model focuses on the three main steps: look, think, and act. Researchers first observe the situation, analyze the problem, and then take action to improve it. The second model is Lewin action research. This model was introduced by Kurt Lewin and considered the foundation of action research. It follows a cycle of planning, acting, observing, and reflecting, which repeats continuously to improve practices. The third model is Calhoun's action research cycle. This model emphasizes collaboration among teachers. Educators work together to identify problems, collect data, and implement strategies to improve student learning. The fourth model is Bachman action research cycle. This model is commonly used in language education and assessment, especially when teachers want to improve how they teach language skills such as reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Bachman models focus on systematic investigation in the classroom. It helps teachers identifying learning problems, test possible solutions, and evaluate whether the strategies used are effective for students. In this model, the teachers begin by identifying a specific problem in the classroom. For example, student may have difficulty understanding grammar or pronunciation. Next, the teachers plan an intervention or strategy to solve the problem. This might include using new teaching techniques, activities, or instructional materials. After planning, the teacher implements the action in the classroom. During this stage, the teacher observes how students respond to the strategy and collects data, such as test results, classroom observation, or student feedback.
So next, we have the Reals Action Research Model. This shows that research is continuous cycle of improvement. So the researcher starts by studying a problem and planning a solution. After planning, they will implement the action to address the problem. While the action is happening, the researcher will collect the evidences and analyze the results to see if the action works. After analyzing the evidence, the researcher reflects on the results, in which this reflection helps them to understand what worked well and what needs to improvement. Based on this reflection, the researcher begins another cycle with a better plan. This model emphasizes that learning and improvement happen through repeated cycles of planning, action, evidences, collection, and so next, the Piaget-Irvine's model. This focuses on continuous improvement in practice. It begins with analyzing the current situation to understand this existing problem or condition. After understanding the situation, the researcher then develops an improved system or strategy to address the issue. Once the improvement is implemented, the researcher then reviews the changes to see if they are effective. The researcher then reflects on the results and prepare a report with recommendations. So these recommendations serve as a guide to further improvements. In this process continues as new action are taken to improve the situation. This model highlights reflection and ongoing development as key parts of the action research. So next, the Ferrance model is commonly used in education research. So this begins with identifying a problem that needs improvement, such as teaching or learning issues. After identifying the problem, the researcher then gathers relevant data to better understand the situation. The collected data is then interpreted to determine possible solutions. Based on the evidences, the researcher acts on findings by implementing a strategy or intervention. After the implementation, the results are evaluated to see if the action was successful. Finally, the researcher determines the next steps based on the results. The cycle continues as new problems or improvements are identified. These models show that the data plays an important role in making informed decisions in action research. Chemist and Mark Taggart described that action research as a spiral process. The process begins with planning a strategy to solve a problem. After planning, the researcher takes action by implementing the plan. While the action is happening, the researcher observes what's taking place and collects information about the result. The researcher then reflects on the observation to determine whether the action was effective. Based on the reflection, a new plan is developed for the next cycle. Because the process repeats and improves over time, it is represented as a spiral rather than simple circle. The Sussman Action Research in 1983. So this model presents action research as a structured process with several stages. It starts with diagnosing the problem by identifying and clearly defining the issues. Next, the researcher develops an action plan by considering possible strategies to solve the problem. After planning, the researcher takes action by implementing the chosen solution. Once the action is implemented, the researcher evaluates the results to determine the effect of the action. Finally, the researcher identifies general findings or lessons learned from the study. These findings help improve future practices and guide the next research cycle. Henderson et al.'s action research process. So this model begins with identifying a problem that needs to be understood or improved. Once the problem is recognized, the researcher develops research questions and examines assumptions related to the issue. The next step is gathering a relevant data to investigate the problem. After collecting the data, the researcher analyzes it to identify patterns or insights. The researcher then interprets the data to understand its meaning and implication. Based on the interpretation, action is taken to address the problem. After the action is implemented, the cycle can begin again to further improve the situation.